What is up, guys? We had a huge episode on this past week's AEW Dynamite where we saw the first night of New Year's Smash. On this episode, we had Snoop Dogg. We had a huge slobber knocker of a main event for the AEW World Championship. We got a big debut tonight. And we also got the reformation of a huge independent faction. So, I bid you adieu. I'm Kevin Jones of Disciples of Wrestling, and let's get to it. So, we start off tonight with a great tag team match between SCU and the Young Bucks versus the Acclaim and TH2, where we saw some nice, fast, high-octane offense from the Young Bucks and SCU to really take control in the beginning. What ended up evening up the odds was the speed, the submissions, and the ground attack of the Acclaim and TH2 to really keep them in it. But this ended up leading into a hot tag where Matt Jackson comes in, does a double Northern Lights suplex, does two great outside dives, and also gets a spear on the outside to bring it back in the inside to hit a risky business with his younger brother Nick Jackson for a near fall. But eventually this leads to Christopher Daniels and Matt Jackson hitting the best Meltzer driver ever for the win, where we see SCU and the Young Bucks get the dub. So next up, we get the return of Jon Moxley. This is our first time seeing him since Winter is Coming, where he lost the AEW World Championship to Kenny Omega. And boy, was he missed. He's one of the best in-ring promos in pro wrestling right now. He shows it in this promo that he cuts in his return, where he talks about how he really does not like bad people altogether. And he warns Kenny Omega and lets him know that he's looking forward to getting even and then some. He lets him know that he's the wrong guy that he crossed by breaking the gentleman's agreement. And I can't wait to see these two just go at it, because Moxley is pissed. And next up backstage, we get an interview with Chucky T and Orange Cassidy, where Chucky T ends up informing us that Trent Beretta is going to be out for 4 months and over healing time since he got attacked last week. And as this is going on, we see Miro, Kip Sabian, and Penelope Ford interrupt, where Miro is just mocking Chucky T and letting him know you're not going to be anything without your tag partner. Since he's out for 4 months, it looks like you're out for 4 months too. And Chucky's not having it. He lets him know that he's a man that can fight on his own, and he has the backup of Orange Cassidy too. I mean, he don't care. We know Orange Cassidy don't care, but he gives great backup. We can give him that. So, and with this, Miro ends up challenging him to a one-on-one match where Chucky T does accept, but there's a catch to it. If Chucky T loses, he becomes Miro's young boy until the end of Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian's wedding. And for those who don't know what a young boy is, it's pretty much, I would say, an apprentice, where you're pretty much just carrying the bags for your mentor and you're doing whatever your mentor says. So that's a match that is now official for next week's AEW for New Year's Smash Part 2. Our second match of the night, we see Wardlow versus Jake Hager, the two muscle of the inner circle and two of easily the biggest guys in AEW, where we see a great even match to start off, where eventually this goes power versus power, but it then takes the interesting turn of a technical wrestling match, where this is more of Jake Hager's background as he's the two-time All-American. And for the most part, this is an even match. And this is great because these are two hosses really going at it, where this ends up taking a turn for Wardlow's athleticism to kick in, where he really has a great amount of athleticism for a big guy. And this ends up going to a swanton bomb that Wardlow ends up hitting, where he gets a near fall, but Jake Hager ends up reversing this to an arm and head triangle choke. But eventually Wardlow gets the break easily by putting his leg on the bottom rope. But then, of course, we see these two hosses go for another even match for the most part until we get Wardlow and Jake Hager on the top rope, where we see Jake Hager again lock in this triangle choke. But Wardlow's smart enough, as he's fading away, he just drops down on the top rope, where he breaks the submission up, comes in the ring, goes for the F10, and gets the win. That's a great win for Wardlow, and he's now the big head of the inner circle. The next up, we got the official weigh-in for Brian Cage versus Darby Allin ahead of their championship match for next week. And Brian Cage comes out with Team Taz, of course, with his posse accompanying him, we got Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs, Taz, and Taz's son Slash. On the other side, we have just Darby Allin. And he has a brand new TNT Championship too. Of course, Tony Khan gave Brody Jr. the red TNT Championship. And now we got Darby Allin with a black TNT Championship. And boy, does it look clean. And so we go ahead right down to it, where Taz is already creating a fuss. Because Tony Schiavone said that Brian Cage is getting weighed first. And he's like, what? Is it because he's the challenger? Yes, Taz, it is definitely because Brian Cage is the challenger. That's exactly why he's getting weighed first. So Brian Cage gets weighed. He is 272 pounds. So up next is Darby Allin. And Darby Allin's a $170. And that's with a skateboard in his hand, TNT Championship in his hand, and everything on. Brian Cage is over 100 pounds heavier than this man. Lord, this is going to be something. And of course, Tony Schiavone's like, oh, Brian Cage is over. He's making a big deal about this weight difference. And Taz is like, of course he is. I mean, Darby Allin had all this stuff on. And I'm like, so we just going to ignore that Brian Cage is a tank, huh? But eventually we see Darby saying, let's get down to business. We know how these work. So let's go ahead and fight. I'm ready to fight. And Taz is like, you're an idiot. And as this is going on, we see the lights come off, where we get the entrance of Sting. And Sting comes in to even up the odds. I mean, in case no one knew math, that's 2 against 5. It's not evening up the odds, really. But Team Taz retreats, and Taz sends a warning letting him know that Brian Cage is taking that TNT Championship next week. Our next match we get is Matt Sydal versus Cody Rhodes, accompanied by his co-host at the Go Big Show, Snoop D-O-double-G. Yes, and Cody Rhodes has a new theme song. Yes, it's a remix of the old one with Snoop Dogg rapping at the beginning. And I was jamming. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sir. It was good. It was fire. So listen to it. But let's get down to the action, where this was a very good match of speed versus power. That was extremely even from bell to bell, where Matt Sydal ends up tweaking his knee, hitting a meteor on Cody Rhodes on the outside entranceway. But this still didn't stop Matt Sydal for the most part. This is very even, where Matt still got in his high, quick, fast offense against Cody's powered offense. Now, we ended up seeing Serpentico getting hit by accident by Cody on the outside of the ring, where this ends up coming to play in effect after the match. But going back to the action, we end up getting Matt Sydal to hit a high knee to the jaw of Cody Rhodes, going into the lightning spiral for a near fall. Well, we see Matt Sydal get a little frustrated, so he goes for that high knee strike to the jaw again, but misses. Cody Rhodes ended up reversing this to hit the crossroads for the win. Now, back to that Serpentico thing. Serpentico and Luther come in, where they go after Cody Rhodes and Matt Sydal. Well, Snoop Dogg was thinking somebody's going to come out. But no, we end up getting Matt Sydal fighting off Luther to bring him to the outside, and we get Serpentico getting 2-on-1 against Cody Rhodes and Matt Sydal. But eventually this leads to a little bit of a celebrity hit, where we get Snoop Dogg hitting the big splash on Serpentico, where we see some Snoop Dogg action, you know what I'm saying? But this was nice fun, and I really enjoyed this part of the show. Next up, we get a match for the AEW Women's Championship, where we see Abaddon as the challenger versus Hikaru Shida, the champion. Where, just starting off, we see Abaddon go right after Shida while Shida's making her entrance. Shida ends up hitting her with her kendo stick, and then Abaddon drops to rise up again like The Undertaker. And it was scary, because Shida was scared. So we go straight to the action in the ring, where the match starts, and Abaddon's just owning Shida. As we see this red mark on Shida's neck from the last time they had an encounter, where Abaddon bites Shida on the neck. Well, we see something very similar like this happening again, where Abaddon drags Shida under the ring, where she ends up biting Shida's neck again for Shida to be gushing with blood. So Abaddon's still punishing Shida for the most part of this match, but Shida's still getting a little bit of offense. Eventually, that little bit of offense comes into fruition, where Abaddon gets a near fall, but this leads to Shida getting a roll up to lead up to her hitting the Tamashita to retain her AEW Women's Championship. Now, the moment y'all been waiting for. If y'all ain't been waiting, I've been waiting though. This is the main event for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, where we get the challenger Rey Fenix versus the champion Kenny Omega, where we see fast, high-octane offense from start to finish in this match. This was unbelievable. This is like seeing the Flash versus the Reverse Flash going against each other, and you just couldn't keep up with the offense. This was just remarkable, where we saw innovative offense from both men, and even when it slowed down, it was still hard-hitting like nobody's business. What this ended up coming down to in the final sequence, where Phoenix wanted to get in a nice little swan-tonish bombish on Kenny Omega, but Kenny catches it, leading to the Tyler Driver 98, and then this ends up going to the V-trigger, and then Kenny gets a near fall on Phoenix, but eventually he brings him up to hit the one-winged angel for the win. If anything, please watch this match. This match was amazing. And then what this leads to is Don Callis coming into the ring, where he shows Phoenix that the family is actually attacking Pac and Pentagon, his actual other members of the Death Triangle. And eventually this leads to Kenny Omega going after Phoenix again after the match. But before he could get any offense in on Phoenix, we see Jon Moxley come out with a barbed wire bat. He ends up hitting Kenny Omega in the gut, where Don Callis goes out of the ring. And of course, we get a big debut. And this big debut is the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. These guys attack Jon Moxley, beat him up, and hit the Magic Killer, where we end up seeing Kenny Omega getting back up and these three beating on him, where we eventually see Kenny Omega getting that same barbed wire bat and going after and attacking Jon Moxley. Now, eventually, the crowd's getting tired of this. Why? Because these are two guys from Impact Wrestling who have came. The Impact Tag Team Champions actually came in the Good Brothers to interrupt this scheduled programming. And so AEW talent just got tired of it. While they're coming from the crowd, we see just the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega clean house. But eventually, the Young Bucks come out to voice reason, as the Young Bucks are very best friends with Kenny Omega, and they used to be in a faction with Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. So we see them start to be a little bit of the voice of reason. But eventually, the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega are like, you're either with us or you're against us. So Kenny Omega brings up the Too Sweet, and Gallows and Anderson bring it up too. And then we see the Young Bucks bring up the Too Sweet as well. So you know what that means. It means the band is back together. The former Bullet Club members are now back together. So that was another AEW. And boy, oh boy, was this jam-packed from start to finish. I really enjoyed this show, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show and enjoyed the recap. I mean, you know what time it is. It's your boy. Yes. So I hope you guys, if you guys do enjoy this, definitely like, share, and comment. And if you haven't subscribed, do that too. I mean, we enjoy the love and we enjoy you guys. We appreciate you guys. And until next time, that was wrestling.